It came and it went. WrestleMania 35 is now in the history books from East Rutherford, New Jersey, MetLife Stadium, in the shadow of New York, as they kept saying. WrestleMania 35 is done, and just got done watching it. I'm going to give you my thoughts and my analysis and my review on WrestleMania 35, a show that the first half of this show was absolutely amazing, almost just peak top WWE. And then close to the end of the show, I feel like things dropped off big time for this show. It was on its way to being one of the best WrestleManias of all time, and it's still a very good show. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this show, but the last few matches, there was a lot of flat endings, and I think I have an idea as to why that is. And I think part of the reason, well, there's two main reasons. Number one, the Kurt Angle Baron Corbin match totally killed the crowd. I don't know what they were thinking. They knew that this was a bad idea. Baron Corbin is not over. Nobody cares about him. He does not have heel heat. He has go-away heat. Kurt Angle is a beloved superstar with 20 years, 20 years of hard work, this guy. And he has so much respect, deserves so much better. And that entire match killed the crowd dead. Killed it dead. But here's the big thing of that I took away from this show. The main issue here is the length of this show. Now, I've watched a lot of long wrestling shows. I've been there live and I've been at home. And those of you who saw this show at home, it's different when you're at home watching WrestleMania because you're in your own home. You can go take a piss whenever you want. You can pause it and watch it later, watch it tomorrow. You can lay down. You can change where you're sitting. You can do all these things from the comfort of your own home. But when you're there in the stadium, when you're in the building, you're there for 7.5 hours because you obviously have to, most people watch the pregame stuff. Not everybody does when you're there live. You don't have to, of course, but either way, you're still there for 5.5 hours, and that's not including travel or waiting in those lines in the hot sun. It makes you very, very tired, especially if you're out of town. If you're a local, well, the thing about New York, New Jersey is that the traffic's always going to be pretty heavy there, especially for a big event like this. So you're probably going to be on the road in traffic for a while. So essentially, you're really tired by the time you get to that 5.5 hour mark. And it was pretty well known here. Becky Lynch, the biggest, most popular star in the company, didn't even get that big of a reaction. And I don't think it's because of her. I totally think it's because people were visibly tired. If you look at the audience, people were really tired. So in the future, I think WWE should try to keep the show at 5 hours, maybe 5.5 hours max. Cut the pregame down to 1 hour if you must, and just do the show like that, because I think that having a show this long, they're going to get tired, dude. Traveling out of town, people are exhausted. But let's go ahead and talk about the show, because a lot of things happen on this show. A lot of good things happen. Like I said, I loved the majority of this show, but then it kind of fell off a cliff, and I'm going to explain to you why here in this video. So we opened up in the pregame show with Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese for the Cruiserweight title. Shockingly enough, Tony Nese won the title. And that was interesting because I was really liking Buddy Murphy's reign as champion. Tony Nese is good too, but I think that Buddy Murphy should have still been champ. The match was good. A fun little match, but the crowd wasn't fully into it because they were just still filing in. And again, this is why you have to really condense the show and not make it so long. But the match was good, decent match, but not as good as some of the other Buddy Murphy matches. Like, for example, the Royal Rumble 4-Way was really good. That was better than this. We have the Women's Battle Royal. Carmella won it. This was the pregame battle royals are kind of just there just for, hey, there's a bunch of wrestlers. It's all pop for them. That's essentially what it is. It's not really a great quote match. This was just whatever. Carmella won. I was expecting Asuka to win because Asuka was doing so well, but Sarah Logan actually eliminated Asuka, and then Carmella kind of snuck in. Then Carmella eliminated Sarah Logan. I was actually surprised because I did think that Sarah Logan had won, and I was like, wow, so she's going to get the push. But instead, Carmella won, which was a disappointment because Carmella is pretty much a mid-card, low-card woman. She's not really a main event talent, in my opinion, at all. Her title reign last year, I think, was a failure. Asuka, on the other hand, I feel has gotten the short end of the stick way too many times in the past year with this company. Since she lost to Charlotte at last year's WrestleMania, they haven't done anything with her that's that interesting. She won the title again at the TLC, but and she beat Becky Lynch in Royal Rumble. But other than that, like, she's just kind of been forgotten about. So I thought that Asuka winning here would have been good to kind of rehab her from losing to Charlotte, but no. Carmella got it because they like Carmella. That's all I can think of. The Revival against Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. The build up to this was pretty bad, considering that it was Ricochet and Aleister Black that were feuding with the Revival, but they decided to change directions, and Ryder and Hawkins won, and it was a good reaction. They're from the New York area, and the whole story is that Kurt Hawkins went on like a 200 and something match losing streak, and he finally got a win here, and they won the tag team titles. It was a good story. It was an out of nowhere kind of finish. Not a bad match, but it was pretty solid. Good match overall. Like I said, I'm not sure where they go with this now, because I feel like the Revival was really getting better and better every week as being tag champions, but let's just see what happens. Then we have the Andre Giant Battle Royal. Kind of a waste of time. Probably the worst Andre Battle Royal they've ever done. They had, a lot of stars in there, but the whole story was about Braun Strowman and the guys from Saturday Night Live. Strowman won the Battle Royal when he tossed out Michael Che and whatever the other guy's name is from SNL. It was just, the crowd was into the final part with Strowman and the SNL guys, but it was just a publicity thing. That's pretty much what this was. This is one of those, like, maybe we'll get some publicity out of it type matches. Strowman winning, I think, was the right move, even though I do kind of wish it was kind of an upcoming guy. Him winning was still the right thing. So that's the pre-show. So when we get to the main show, Alexa Bliss opened the show and she introduced Hulk Hogan, and I thought it was going to be like her co-host, but huge reaction for Hulk Hogan. It was good to see him out there. They're out there, he called it the Silver Dome again, making fun of himself from WrestleMania 30. He called it MetLife Center instead of MetLife Stadium. They had a cool moment where Hogan and Bliss were posing. She was doing the Hulk Hogan poses. That was cool. And then Paul Heyman rushes out to the ring, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? Are they going to do the match now? And pretty much that's what they said. Heyman said if Lesnar can't close the show, he wants to go now on the show so they can go to Las Vegas and go to a place where he's ultimately appreciated. Talking about the UFC. And Brock comes out, and then Rollins comes out, and they open the show, shockingly enough, huge shocker, with Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. Now, the actual match bell to bell was 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but they had a lot of stuff happen before the bell rang. Seth comes out there, Lesnar beats him up, F5s him on the floor, knocked over the German announcers, just, beat the crap out of him. Finally, they rung the bell. Lesnar does the German suplexes, goes for the F5. The referee takes a bump. Then Lesnar turns around, Rollins hits a low blow on Lesnar and then hits a super kick and then 3 curb stomps, one after the other, and he pinned Lesnar 1, 2, 3. It was a fun 2-minute match. It really was exciting. Kind of a shocking way that it's kind of shocking to me that Lesnar's matches have become like this. It's just they're always like this, and he can have great matches because if you go back to his first few matches, his match with Cena at Extreme Rules 2012 was incredible. His match with Triple H at WrestleMania in New York, and the other one was pretty good. And his match with CM Punk in 2013 was great too. The guy can have big, long, epic matches, but he's having these really short matches. And I know he's a great worker. He had a great match with Finn Balor and an even better one with Daniel Bryan back in Survivor Series. This was a lot shorter, but they basically wanted to start the show off hot, and I knew that once Seth came out to open the show, I had a feeling he was going to win. Either that or they were going to do the Roman Reigns switcheroo, which I'm glad they didn't do. But so Seth won. He defeats Brock Lesnar. Where do we go from here? Who knows? Lesnar's not in the USADA pool. I don't know if he's going to actually go to UFC. I believe he might, but he might also be using them as a bargaining tool to get more money out of WWE. We'll see, but the belt is off of Lesnar, and I'm okay with it because I want Lesnar's great. I like Brock, but I want there to be a different guy on top for right now. I'm not saying to get rid of Brock. You can have him a few other guys, but don't keep the belt. Keep putting the belt on him, even though I think they will do a rematch from this at some point. Because, the low blow. So far we have, and I just want to say the titles changed hands in every match but one. So that was interesting. Then they had AJ Styles, Randy Orton. This was the one I was looking forward to the most because the build-up was great, and they gave us a pretty good match. This is a solid match. I expected it to be a tiny bit better, but I think they're going to be saving that for future matches. But this was a really good match. This was probably my second favorite AJ Styles match at WrestleMania, besides probably the Shane McMahon one, because that was a really, really good one. And I also really enjoyed the Jericho one, but good match. They did some good little teases and reversals, like the RKO was going to get hit, and then actually he hit it, and it was a kick out. AJ won with a phenomenal forearm. There was a 450 that looked really good. High superplex by Randy Orton. Really like this match. I love this match, and I hope the feud continues because they have a lot of chemistry, these guys. Then we had the SmackDown 4-Way Usos versus Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ricochet and Aleister Black versus Sheamus and Cesaro for the SmackDown tag belts. I really thought that they were going to have the title change. I really thought, actually, let me take that back. There was every belt changed hands but two. I made a mistake there. Every belt changed hands but two because the Usos did retain. I was thinking they were going to go ahead and give it to Ricochet and Black because they lost on NXT, but that's okay because they looked really, really good. We saw the 630. Cesaro did like the giant swing on Ricochet for like I don't know how many minutes. Really fast paced. Probably could have been a really good match if they had been given a tiny bit more time, but it was still really good. Like, I really enjoyed this. The guys worked really hard, and everybody did a great job. It was just one of those, good, solid, multi-person tag matches where it's like a train wreck. And it was a train wreck, and it was supposed to be. Miz and Shane McMahon, Falls Count Anywhere was hilarious and fun. The storytelling here was really, really, really good. The match, the brawl was kind of dragging for a little while there earlier, and then it got really, really better. Miz's father had jumped in because Shane was going to go off the top and elbow Miz through the table. His father came in, tried to stop, and then his father gets in the ring, and then Shane starts beating up his dad, and then Miz snaps and rises up like a damn monster like Godzilla and just chases Shane McMahon and proceeds to beat the crap out of him for the remainder of the match pretty much. And this was not a very good, it was a fun match. Right? Storytelling-wise. It told a great story, but it did drag a bit. I still think that the Shane-AJ match from a couple years ago was probably the best WrestleMania Shane McMahon match in recent memory. The Hell in a Cell with Taker was pretty good too, but I like the AJ one a little bit better. But overall, the finish I thought was brilliant. It was brilliant. So The Miz has Shane cornered on this big, this scaffold or something like that. And Shane's begging for his life. And rather than The Miz just beating him up and taking the win right there and not throwing him off the thing, he tried to suplex him from the scaffold, and they went down this big stunt. And then what happens is Shane lands on top of Miz and gets the 1, 2, 3. That was phenomenal storytelling, because you have the babyface here, Miz, who let his anger and his desire for vengeance and revenge take control of him. He lost control, and it cost him the match. But he still beat the crap out of Shane. So really good stuff here. Great storytelling, and I did enjoy it a lot. Bayley and Sasha versus Nia and Tamina versus Natalya and Beth Phoenix versus Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. This was decent. I thought there were some sloppy parts here. When I say decent, it was a step down, pretty much. And it's kind of the first real hiccup of the show here. They did some cool stuff. It was cool seeing Bret Hart out there with Natty and Beth Phoenix. We actually saw the heart attack be used in the match. And they teased Nia Jax getting to the top rope doing something. They didn't do it. But the Iconics won, actually. They did a cool spot where Beth Phoenix hit the Glam Slam off the middle rope. And Peyton Royce ran in, made the save, and then Billie Kay got the pin. And so on the Iconics are now the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. They can go on both shows. And I'm very happy about that because of the fact that I really like the Iconics. I love Peyton Royce. I love both of them, but I love Peyton Royce. I really, really like Peyton. Billie Kay's okay too, but yeah, they are now the SmackDown Women's Tag Team Champions. Then we have Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE title. This was the real highlight of the show. To me, this was the real main event of the show, if you ask me. The crowd was incredibly into this match, incredibly into Kofi, incredibly into this storyline. Just really, really amazing match. The crowd loved it. There was psychology. We had the New Day out there. We had Kofi Kingston. Tons of crazy, crazy near falls. We had scientific wrestling. We had all kinds of stuff. One problem though. When Kofi won, and that was a great finishing sequence, he hit the Trouble in Paradise after breaking out of the label lock, and won the belt. And then they actually gave him the regular WWE belt back. Like, he got the original WWE World title, not the hemp title. So he is now the champion. And I believe that makes him the first 100% black WWE champion, because The Rock was mixed. The Rock is half black, half Samoan. I think now, if the WWE, not the World Heavyweight title or the Universal, the WWE, the one that goes back to Bruno Sammartino and Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin, that lineage, there's never been a black champion. And now Kofi's the first one. I'm really, really happy for him. You know, the 11-year journey of this guy coming in as just like a Jamaican gimmick, and then he became, you know, the athletic Kofi Kingston. And he had a really good match with Daniel Bryan. Blew away everything on the show. Again, probably the best match on the show, I would say, with the best story. The only problem is, like I said, when he won the title, they had revealed these New Day Kofi's the Champion shirts, and they were already selling those shirts before the show, so they kind of spoiled the ending themselves, which I thought was kind of funny. Samoa Joe, Rey Mysterio, this was a dud. They did a couple of matches. They did a couple of moves. Mysterio hit the 619, and Mysterio came out dressed like Mysterio from Spider-Man. And then he went for the 619, and then he went to the top rope. Joe caught him, put him in the choke, and the ref stopped the match in less than a minute. It was literally a squash. I don't know. There's rumors that Rey might be injured, but to me, I knew this match would get cut for time, but I think it would be cut this much, and it really sucks because these guys are two great performers, and I wish that they would have had a good match. But what can you do? It got cut for time. It was a dud. Then we have Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. Now, this was not that good. I'm happy Roman Reigns is back, and I love Drew McIntyre, but I think the problem was that the crowd was beat because they just saw Kofi Kingston win the title, and this was kind of a more slower, methodical match. You know, this match was two big guys just going out there beating each other up, and you had, you know, Drew doing a lot of moves on Roman and vice versa, but it wasn't like really like that brutal. Like, I was expecting it to be brutal like the Lesnar Roman matches at Mania 31 and 34 where they just threw each other around, and you know, it really wasn't that. It was just kind of a whatever match. Like, it actually felt more like a Monday Night Raw main event than anything. People weren't really that into it, even though Roman Reigns, when he won, was like crying. I'm not really sure why. I guess maybe because he was back and he felt the love, but it was, you know, I just thought it was an okay match. It was, you know, he hit the Superman punch in the spear, and that's it. He just won the match. I don't know where the feud goes from here, but I would have liked it better if Drew had won. That way he can challenge Seth, but maybe we'll still see that. Then they had the probably the best segment of the show. Elias comes out to do his thing. They play this clip from Babe Ruth, and then Cena comes out with the Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick. He comes out to basic Thugonomics, and he comes in, and he was wearing the Yankees #3 jersey with Babe Ruth, and he does the 2002, 2003, 2004 John Cena rapper gimmick where he spits this awesome little, like, you know, quote-unquote freestyle, this rhyme on Elias, just like in 2003, and he said Elias WWE stands for Wasted Wrestling Experiment, which I thought was kind of funny. And then he told him, he's like, no AA, but I will give you the FU. And then Cena hit him with the FU, hit the 5-knuckle shuffle, and he pumped the sneakers up. So it really was Cena from 2003, and that was really cool. That was really cool. But when this happened, I knew it. I said, I don't think Cena's going to wrestle Kurt Angle, which really was an issue later on. So then we had Triple H and Batista no holds barred with Triple H's career on the line. I told you Triple H was going to win this thing. He couldn't lose, and he did not lose. The finish was Ric Flair hands Triple H a sledgehammer, and he clocks Batista with it as he was distracted by Ric Flair. He turns around and catches it, then gets hit with the pedigree, and Batista gets pinned. They had some really weird things in this match. So the entrances were really cool. They had Batista coming out in these like stretch Hummers or whatever they were, these expensive cars. But man, he looked really, really small. This Batista was not the Dave Batista that we have seen in the past few years, even in his last run. He's a lot smaller. He didn't even look as big as he did in the Marvel movies. He's just a lot smaller. And Triple H comes out, and they have these crazy spots where, like, Triple H tries to rip out, Dave's nose ring. Then he tries to use pliers, like, on Dave. They did a lot of really weird sort of deathmatch stuff. Not too much of it, but a little bit of it. And the match is, like, long. And the crowd wasn't that into it. They were into it at first, but then, like, Big Dave, like, trips to come in the ring. And I'm like, wait a minute. Is this going to be a train wreck? It wasn't a train wreck. I liked this match a lot. I actually really enjoyed this match. But, again, it's one of those things where the show is too long and there's too much stuff still left. Honestly, I'm not saying they should have closed the show, but this is where the show should have really ended. Everything after this, the crowd was just dead. They were just dead for everything after this. Maybe if they reorganized the match order, it would have been different, but they definitely weren't into it as much as they were the Kofi stuff and what happened earlier in the show with Seth. But this next thing I'm going to talk about really, really killed the crowd. And actually killed the crowd so bad that they didn't even react that hard to Becky. Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin. Look, it's no secret. Nobody wanted to see this match. Baron Corbin is not over. He's a proven ratings killer. Nobody cheers for him. They don't want to see him. Kurt Angle is a legend. People wanted anything else but this match. They wanted John Cena, The Undertaker, whoever, Shelton Benjamin, anyone else but Baron Corbin. No John Cena surprise, no Undertaker at all in this show. First WrestleMania takers missed since 2000. 19 years. They did the Baron Corbin-Kurt Angle match, and it sucked. They tried. There was more psychology here than before. Baron Corbin, here's the thing. If they were going to do the Baron Corbin-Kurt Angle match anyways, without teasing anything else, and then, by the way, Corbin did do, like, Cena teases and things like that, so maybe they are going to do that match later on, but if you're going to do this match, number one, Kurt Angle should have tapped this dude out in, like, a minute. Instead, they have this wrestling match that's not very good, that has no heat. The longer it goes, the less people care. They don't want to see Baron Corbin wrestle. And not only that, Kurt Angle loses the match. And I know people say that, well, if you're going to retire, you should go out on your back. Yes, if you're going to be retiring, you should lose. But not against Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin was not the right guy to beat Kurt Angle. This does not give Baron Corbin the rub because he already beat Kurt Angle on television. It doesn't help him at all. People don't want to see him. If you're going to have a young guy beat Kurt Angle, it has to be a young guy people want to see beat Kurt Angle. Somebody who's a newer star, like a Ricochet or somebody like that, who people want to invest in. Nobody wants to invest in Baron Corbin. This killed the crowd, and not just that, but I felt that Kurt Angle afterwards saying, I want all of you guys to chant, "You suck" at me, those two words. I just feel like I love Kurt Angle so much that he shouldn't be telling people to chant "You suck" at him because he doesn't suck. He's Kurt Angle, he's a legend, and I just felt this whole segment was very disrespectful. And maybe it was Kurt Angle's idea. Maybe he wanted to do it. I don't know. But I feel like if I were in charge, I would have just told him, no, dude, you go out there, you kill this guy in like 30 seconds, and we'll rehab him later. It doesn't matter. This is Kurt Angle's night. And it was just bad. I mean, again, like when Ric Flair retired, it was Shawn Michaels, somebody who people had an emotional investment in. Nobody cares about Baron Corbin. So either have Kurt Angle kill Baron Corbin or have somebody else wrestle Kurt Angle and beat him. And we got the worst possible outcome. Baron Corbin wins in a boring match. Angle says, I had the time of my life for 20 years. He wants to thank everybody, and that's it. This was a very, very lackluster retirement. Probably the worst wrestling retirement maybe ever. I mean, it's up there. It really is up there. It's got to be. Bobby Lashley and the Demon Finn Balor. This was a 4-minute match, a nothing match. He powerbombs Lashley, hits the coup de grace, double stomp, and gets him. They had the Demon come out, and it was not a squash match. Bobby Lashley did do some moves, but the Demon he wasn't going to beat the Demon, bro. It wasn't going to happen. And this match, they were already, the show was already going into hour 7. We were already deep into the show, so it's good they kept this, short. Then they announced the 82,265 attendance record, which is probably a work. They showed a preview for WrestleMania 36 in Tampa, which is going to be awesome. I will be there. And then we have our main event. You know, the most over wrestler in the company right now, Becky Lynch, versus Ronda, Charlotte. Ronda, of course, being the Raw champion, Charlotte being the SmackDown champion. Winner take all. Winner wins everything. Of course, Becky Lynch won because she was supposed to win. But before that, we had this kind of interesting entrance where Charlotte landed on a helicopter. And that was cool because it reminds me of when Ric Flair landed in a helicopter during one of the Great American Bashes back in the 80s against Ricky Morton. It was the same idea. And then for Ronda, they had Joan Jett come out and perform, you know, the song, her entrance music. That was cool. And then Becky comes out and we have our match. When Becky came out, she got a reaction, but she did not get the kind of reaction she gets on television. It could be because the stadium is really big and the sound travels up, or it could be because the people are tired. And I'm thinking it's because they were tired. I keep saying it. I love long wrestling shows from home, and there are some long wrestling shows that work, but people were really exhausted. 5 hours, I think, is the most you can go, in my opinion. But I've already made that point a bunch of times here on this video, so let's wrap it up here. Ronda Rousey, Charlotte, Becky Lynch. So, like I said, Lynch won. The match had somewhat of a controversial finish in that Rousey was going for the Piper's Pit move, and then she got rolled up into a crucifix pin, and it looked like the shoulder for Rousey may have been up and the referee didn't see it. But basically, he counted 3. Becky wins the title. And even Corey Graves says that this is not the way he wanted WrestleMania to end. And I thought they were going to have Becky tap Charlotte or tap Ronda out. That's what I thought the finish was going to be. But no, they instead had this finish. And it tells me that Ronda is probably not going to leave after this match. She's probably going to have another match with Becky at some point, or another 3-way. The match was good, but it wasn't great. Like I said, the crowd was not that into it, but it was not terrible. It was a good match, but not a WrestleMania main event caliber. Like, I was kind of expecting this to be like the female version of Benoit, Michaels, and Triple H from WrestleMania 20, and then I remembered that, you know, as much as I think Ronda and Becky are talented, and as much as I think Charlotte is an amazing wrestler, we're talking about Shawn Michaels, Chris Benoit, and Triple H. You know what I'm saying? That's a different level right there, especially, you know, Shawn Michaels and Chris Benoit at the time, of course. Let's not even get into Benoit right now, because we know what happened with him was not a good thing. But in that match, he was spectacular. And this was not that. I wanted at least, you know, maybe not as good of a match, but at least like the same level of emotion. And we just didn't get that there at all. But it was good, though. Again, there was the only real kind of big spot was Charlotte did like a Spanish fly from the top rope, and they did this sort of table spot that looked kind of sloppy because it looked like they went too low on the tables. But other than that, it was just kind of a whatever 3-way, not the best WrestleMania 3-way, flat finish. But at the end of the day, you know, Becky Lynch is the champion now, and she will go on to represent the company in the first women's main event for WrestleMania. I will say this. I personally felt like Charlotte versus Asuka last year was way better than this 3-way. And I feel like if you would have put that match with those same moves here on this card in the main event, it probably would have been a better way to end the show. Because that was a really great match last year. But this was good. Again, not great. Definitely not what I was hoping for. Bit of a flat finish to WrestleMania. If you're going to watch this show, definitely watch Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan. Watch the first half or so. After the Triple H Batista match, you can pretty much just skip to the very end and watch the main event if you want, but it's not crucial. Everything before that, though, was a good show. It was a very solid show, a fun show. I would put it in the mid-tier for WrestleManias. It was on its way to being an upper-tier Mania, but just it really fell off there. The Baron Corbin thing was bad. It was terrible. It was a bad idea. That's it. Let me know your thoughts. What did you think about WrestleMania 35? And my prediction that I'm making right now, and this is going to go up before Raw airs, is that on Raw, we're going to have the 4 horsewomen, all of them, Ronda, Shayna Baszler, blah, blah, blah. They're going to come up, and they're going to eventually build to a 4-on-4 horsewomen match with the Ronda's horsewomen, and then, of course, the WWE NXT horsewomen, which is Becky, Sasha, Charlotte, and Bayley. And that's going to be awesome if they do that. That's my prediction. My prediction for Monday Night Raw. But I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. If I'm right, great. If I'm wrong, it's whatever. I'm just predicting it. Thanks for watching. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you real soon.